Righto, guys, we want to get into Oaks Day at Trentham. We're going to 4 races we're going to cover, and all very good races. We're going to start race number 5, Steve, and that is the Wentworth Grange Cuddle Stakes for the fillies and mares over the mile.
You're headed by Cinerama at $4.20. Hardly a move being made in this particular market. Quite compressed. A nice little even spread. Thad headed by Cinerama at 4.2. Mai Tai in that second elect with Sam I Am Susie, who steps up to black type company, 4.8 each of 2. Zola Express, probably if there was a slight lead, it is around number 5, Zola Express at $5.50. Lecria $8. Lana Court at $9, far better placed here. Sila J on the quick back up at 14. Charm Star, interesting runner. Little money to speak of, back from Chris Wallace / Australia, $15, and Magic and Canto best of the rest at 16. So again, no turns in or outwards, but number 5 Zola Express just down to early money invested. Best lead I can give.
Yeah, she's always well back, Zola Express. Look, some talented fillies and mares here, well, mares anyway. BP. Top market Cinerama has been getting out of the gates, and I guess that's always a little bit of a concern around your favourite.
It is, isn't it? We always go back to the race that she ran, what was it, second in behind Melody Bell in the Thorndon Mile in 2021, and that was, an enormous effort to run second with the ground that she conceded in that race behind Melody Bell in the Thorndon Mile. And that's the race I always keep coming back to as well. She's a Group 1 place getter over 1,600 metres at this venue. Now, she's won 2 White Apple Thoroughbred Breeders, one at Tohuranikau, the other recently out of Hawke's Bay. So she just sits in a good place under the conditions of this race. Look, Lana Cord and both Charm Star, they are Group 1 place getters last year, of course, at this meeting when they ran second and third in the New Zealand Oaks. I think Charm Star is an interesting horse in this race. Just one of those runners where she could get to a price $14, $15, could be backable on the each way, could be a nice top 3, top 4 horse to lob into your trifectas and first fours. I keep coming back to Cinerama, though. I just like what I've seen from her at the top end of racing and how she performed recently at Hawke's Bay. So not much over some of these horses, but when you look at the conditions of the race, where a horse like, for instance, Sam I Am Susie, who is, progressively looking very good coming through the grade. She's won 2 of her last 3, but she's only half a kilo off a horse who's been Group 1 placed, and that being Cinerama, and look, only a kilo off a horse like Lana Court as well. So under the conditions, those horses at the top of the book have it in favour over her, but she comes in with up and running form. So that's always the balls in the air with these type of races, these set weights and penalties events.
Yeah, they tend to favour those stronger or mares that higher up the ratings, don't they, BP? And look, that win at Hawke's Bay 2 starts ago that you mentioned, probably had no right to win that day almost.
Yeah, I mean, did a great job. It really picked up strongly too, and the horse in front of it, of course, was Magic and Canto, who looked to be the horse who was going to take the race out. Magic and Canto is one of those horses who can bob up from time to time too. But I think with that effort that we saw from her, and then, of course, currently after that, she then ran 7th in the El Cheapo Cars Group 1 weight for age down at Otaki. So, and she was, 5.5 off them. Masker Pony was in that race, and some good other runners in front of her from Tiako. So she has those right form lines, doesn't she, coming into this race?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt she does. You're right there, Paul. Isn't that not Sween's not banging the doors there in your studio?
Yeah, I'm being evicted.
Again. Look, nice field of fillies and mares. You'll be noticing that early money for Zola Express, I would have thought, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, just like BP, it's very, very hard to take your eyes off Cinerama, as he said. A huge turn of foot to run second to Melody Bell at the track over the mile. I thought Charm Star, coming back from Australia, where she ran second to Duais in the Queensland Oaks, who last week came out and won the Australian Cup. She also ran second to Marilenia here in the New Zealand Oaks last season. So I'll give Charm Star a wee bit of a chance at certainly for a top 3 or top 4, I think, but it's very, very hard to look away from the Alan Sharrock-trained Cinerama.
Have you and Pops had a meeting before this show? Both found Charm Star. Steve, look, Cinerama, we talked about set weights and penalties and how it favours the higher rated horses, generally speaking, but it is a competitive market, this.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't think she's going to start too much shorter than 4.20 where she currently sits. Cinerama, she has that low percentage play, which we always speak about on the show here, that she can get back, be a little bit tardy out of the machine. She's been a lot better in recent times. Her overall Trentham record on paper is not great, but I think that's a little bit misleading, as BP mentioned. She did finish placing in behind Melody Bell in the, I think it was the Thorndon Mile last year.
Yes, BP mentioned that.
And a couple other races where she's been a little bit stiff at Trentham as well, so no knock there. A couple of horses I am intrigued in. Sam I Am Susie. She ran a good number last start when winning over 16 at Ellerslie and the rating 74, 1 length above par that day. So even though she's stepping up in grade against some nice black type performers, she sits comfortably in that second line at 4.8. And she did beat an impressive sub-winner in Fun Tonic, which was very good last Sunday in the last race on Auckland Cup Day. So some nice form reference around Sam I Am Susie. Zola Express, I think it's a key jockey change here. Maddie Cameron, this horse needs a strong jockey that can get busy early on. She can just be found wanting in the business end of the race. She gets back in sticky positions. Now, she's drawn barrier 1. So it is a little bit sticky. I'm sure they would have wanted a marble, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around that. But from barrier 1, Matty will just have to be aware that he tries to hold a position for this horse and not get too far back and caught along the rail. But if he can sit this horse midfield in that neutral position, I think that's what they'll be looking to play around Zola Express, because she does have a turn of foot. I think her sweet spot right now at present is 1600, so she fits the bill there. Another horse I want to touch on is Asala J.
Oh, no. Yes.
Now, I was big on it last week at Ellerslie and even the start prior to that when it smashed the clock at Mudda, but just want to forgive it last start at Ellerslie. Sat in the first 2 and running. They ran for the first 800, 48.22 with 6 lengths above par. So really the race shape was against any horse that was in the first 2 and running. It still had the audacity to be beaten, around about 2.4 lengths behind Fun Tonic, who Fun Tonic had the race shape to suit. Back wide, finished over the top of them off a hot tempo. So there doesn't look to be that much pressure in this race. The only horse I can see taking it on in that leading position is Daisy the Maidner. So I think if they can get their own way in front, even though it's stepping up in grade and the conditions of the race doesn't suit Asala J with a rating of 70, I think she could give a little bit of cheek and a nice each way quote.
Yeah, okay. Currently $14 for Isla J. Look, it is tricky, BP, isn't it, to sort of get away from those quality mares. And look, Steve mentioned Sam I Am Susie and Isla J, who are sort of coming up through the ranks, but hard to tip them when you've got a mare with, an accomplished mare like Cinerama, isn't it?
It is, and Steve makes a great point about Sam I Am Susie, is that she's a horse who's on the up and it is deserved of shot of having a crack at black type with what she's done recently, and Le Crayere and Isla J and those type of horses. So that just adds for a great race, doesn't it? And I think this is a good race coming up on the weekend, the Cuddle Stakes, for all those reasons, with those runners at the top of the book, with the previous form lines. Lanacord, I even think Lanacord's a sneaky hope here. Now, 1,600 metres is short of her best, but one of her better runs through the spring last season was when she ran 7th in the Windsor Park Classic, and she ran some really good sectionals to say that she was a chance and ready to go for the Livermore Classic over the 2,040 metres. So you've only got to line up what she's done last year, because post the Oaks, she then, of course, went across to Adelaide as well and did the business there. So she's a high-quality mare that gets in well here under set weights and penalties. I thought she was a decent chance at the top 3 and top 4. She's top 3, 280, top 4, 220. And I even think Charm Star is the other horse that, out of that Oaks form that could be worth a look. So, look, we're mentioning a number of horses, so it must be a good race to take part in terms of a betting contest.
Yeah, 100%. Just touch on Lanacord. Steve, what are your thoughts there?
It's she's a quality placed, to be honest. It's been badly placed. Yeah. I can understand they went to Hawke's Bay on the back of what we saw as a 3-year-old in particular, in Adelaide, etc., and have a crack at that Triple Crown as being basically the grand final, Livermore Classic over 2,000. But she didn't quite measure up. As BP said, she finished round 6th or 7th as her best, ran home okay sectionals, but at the end of the day, she wasn't quite up to our genuine weight for age Group 1 horses. And they've continued to race her at Group 1 company at weight for age, at set weights and penalties. I think she would have been an ideal candidate to be placed working back from one of our Cups races, whether it was a New Zealand Cup, Wellington Cup, or even an Auckland Cup, on a low weight, because her rating is not high. It's still sitting at 81. She would have been well placed in open handicap in a staying event. But look, this is more her go, back to her own sex, set weights and penalties. But ideally, looking forward, I want this horse to be placed at a nice staying race down in the weights.
You know, fair enough. Absolutely right, BP. So you've got Cinerama on top just to surmise here, and you don't mind a little bit of Charm Star and maybe a little bit of Lana Cord, top 3, top 4. Am I right?
Yep, that's it. Yep, I'll go with those two as nice place chances in Cinerama top pick.
Yeah, okay. Not to try and take the words out of your mouth, of course. Sorry, BP. Paulie, which way are you going in this year's Cuddle Stakes?
Yeah, I'll stick with BP and his Panthers jersey. I've got Cinerama on top at 420 and very happy to take Charm Star. I got her marked down at 380 for a top 3. She's drifted slightly out to $4 now for a top 3.
Yeah, okay. $4 Charm Star top 3. We didn't mention Le Criers, Steve, just quickly. Thoughts on Le Criers, sorry, before we move on?
Look, she was well beaten by Imperatriz, who just smashed the clock. So
Okay.
there's no Imperatriz in this race. Look, she's a chance. She's okay at the set weights and penalties of a rating 83. She's got a sticky gate from barrier 10.
Yeah.
She doesn't have huge tactical speed, so she'll probably be in the last third in running. She'll need tempo to suit.
Okay, the boys are pretty keen on Cinerama, and look, if she picks the jump and is somewhere near them at the 300 metre mark, she'll be awfully hard to hold out in this year's Cuddle.